So last week we spoke about the automatic promotion race in League Two and covered 7 teams in the top 7, obviously, but there's lots of teams outside the current top 7 that are aiming for, at the very least, a playoff spot. And of course, as we've seen in previous seasons, the likes of Bolton and Bristol Rovers, Doncaster even, have put together very strong runs in the second half of the season. And possibly enter themselves into the automatic promotion equation as well. And I think the bar for autos could be low enough to encourage that. But this is a playoff scramble chat, and as things stand, just outside the top 7, with Walsall showing 1 or 2 signs of vulnerability, you could argue, and possibly 1 or 2 others, other spots available as well. Chesterfield are on 45 points, top of the pack, just outside that top 7, knocking on the door from 29 games. Grimsby Town, of course, in form, won their last 5 league games, haven't conceded since Boxing Day, which or possibly even before Christmas, which is extremely impressive thanks to the form of Jackson Smith. They've got 44 points from 28. Crewe Alexandra have the same number of points from 30 games. Just below them, with a game in hand, are Barnet on 43, and Colchester with another game in hand on Barnet with 42. So plenty of teams in the mix. Who's going to come strong in the second half of the season, and who's going to claim a top 7 berth? That's what we're here to discuss on this League 2 podcast. So if you like what we do here at EFL Debate, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. For those who subscribe to us on YouTube and have liked what we're doing for a long time, you do have the option to support the channel by joining it for £3 a month, and every penny of that goes straight back into the channel. We hire a video editor and social media manager, and we're doing plenty to improve the quality of the content. And if you'd like to be part of that journey, we'd really appreciate it if you can join for £3 a month. But if not, we're still glad of your company. So let's meet our guests this evening. My co-host, which is Danny from the One Up Front Salford City blog and the Old Dead Tree fanzine. We'll bring in our first guest in a moment, Tom from Spirates, right? But Danny, I just wanted to ask you, how open do you think the playoff scramble is? And are there any teams that I've just mentioned, Chesterfield, Grimsby, Crewe, Barnet and Colchester, that you're particularly excited about in terms of the playoff scramble?
It's funny. I know we're talking about Chesterfield first up, so we can get into that in more detail. But Chesterfield is a team, anytime I've seen them live, I've always liked. I like how they play. I like the type of players that they seem to bring in. And, you know, it's a little bit different than maybe the type that my own club do at Salford. So Chesterfield are always of interest to me. And Barnet are also, you know, watching how they've transitioned from coming up from the National League, and we've signed one of the ex-players, Ade Aluo. So they're two. I'm not saying they're the ones that I would tip to form the playoff place necessarily, but the two that I've got my eye on the most.
Interesting. Well, let's bring in Tom then from Spirates, right? Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Do you feel like, do you fancy Chesterfield's chances, promotion favourites before the season? Do you fancy Chesterfield's chances of coming strong at the business end of the season, given the managerial experience you have in Paul Cook in the dugout?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think you've caught me on quite a negative day, to be honest with you. Just because of sort of.
I'll come back tomorrow if that can help.
yeah. Tomorrow I might say we'll win the lot. No, you just look at that sort of pack in the top 3, and let's be fair. Before a ball was kicked this year, we were aiming for top 3. That was especially from a fan base point of view. We were promotion favourites, like you're saying, that kind of thing. We were thinking, yeah, we've got to try and go for promotion this season. Obviously, we've just not had that consistency this year, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. There's squad depth and possibly age of the squad in certain positions, which has meant that we don't have quite the legs to be a 90-minute side. You know, injuries to key players like Dobra, Markande, who obviously are big misses for any team. So there's a lot of reasons. I can rattle off reasons, but at the end of the day, we just haven't been consistent enough. And I look at us now. Obviously, you've invited me to this playoff scramble chat, and I think probably playoffs now has to be the aim for us, just because I don't think we'll be more consistent than the sides that are already in the top 3 race. So we just need to be more consistent than the ones who are at the bottom end of that playoff pack.
Just one thing I could, if I could, Gab and Tom, it's just Now, you were talking about the age of the squad, and when I was looking through the minutes, I noticed that you've got no player under 23 with 1,000 minutes or more, which just intrigued me. So it doesn't seem like, I mean, that's no fault at all. But I'm just wondering if you don't seem to be kind of blooding a lot of particularly young players, and you're having kind of almost mid-20s, so I suppose late-20s players, and why would that be something the club wants to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of a little. Excuse me, sorry, my phone's just going on. I think there's kind of a little bit of grace that Cook can be given, that especially in central midfield, he tried to bring in obviously Luke Butterfield and Matt Dibley-Diaz, who the latter, which was a loanee from Fulham. So he wanted some more youth in midfield, and then Matt Dibley-Diaz has been injured all season, and I think he's gone back to Fulham now. So we're not even seeing him play for us. Luke Butterfield had a long injury and has now gone on loan to Accrington because we thought he wasn't going to get the minutes, but now John Flex picked up an injury. So it's kind of like, I don't know, the decision making at times has been a bit questionable in certain positions. And I'd say midfield's the biggest one, really, but defence as well. You just look at the lack of sort of depth and lack of youth that we've had. I mean, I think at one point we literally had Jamie Grimes and Kyle McFadzean as our only two fit centre backs, who both obviously are getting on in years as well. So that's why. And I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know why we've done it. I think the recruitment has probably let us down this year a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose one thing that interests me, if I look at the three that you played against Walsall behind Will Grigg, I suppose I would look at it and say Dylan Markande, very much the star man, and he's got so much flair and a very elusive wide player with a lot of quality, as you saw for half of last season. But I suppose I look at maybe Liam Mandeville and Dylan Duffy and think, would they do other teams, right at the top of League Two, look at those players and think, "Oh, I wish we had them." And I just wonder whether you're missing that extra difference maker, possibly in those attacking areas.
I'm not sure really, because I mean, I'm a massive proponent of both Duffy and Mandeville for one reason, and it's that they both make very good decisions on the ball. And I think you can't, for a possession team especially, you can't underestimate the importance of that, in my opinion. And I think both of them have got football brains. They always keep the ball ticking over, that kind of thing. And in the first half, it actually worked really well down that left hand side with Duffy and Pierce, who obviously we've just signed a left back. Great player, great early cross on him, and it kind of brought me back to last season when Duffy was linking up really well with Jack Sparks again, an attacking fullback down that left hand side. And I thought it worked really well. So I kind of get where you're coming from, but also when you consider we've got Armando Dobra to bring on, James Berry as well as another option, Will Dixon we've just made a permanent from Man City, who's got bags of potential. So I don't know, I'd say that specific area of the pitch is our strongest, and I'd say we're one of the strongest teams in the league there personally.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I suppose, are we looking more at centre half then? Because I really like Carl McFadzean and his experience and reading of the game, and I think Seals Funkels is a very talented ball-playing defender. But I did look at the second goal that you maybe conceded against Walsall and thought, a little bit of ball watching. I don't see a Bromley, for instance, conceding that kind of goal. And maybe you're missing that bit of, is it physicality or that bit of aggression? Do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because Gary Roberts, who's been doing quite a lot of the interviews this season, he said he started to question the team's mentality a bit and said, is it a lack of aggression? Is it a lack of not desire, but a lack of sort of that aggression in those key moments? And for me, it's that, and possibly a lack of concentration at times as well, because we're very good at gifting teams soft goals. I mean, that Walsall first half, we were by far the best team for the first 40 minutes. We then take our foot off the gas a little bit, and they score with their first shot on target. And then all of a sudden, you're back to a one-goal game, and obviously they got the next goal. And we're hanging on to not lose. So we just don't do ourselves favors in games, and we don't lose a lot of games. But it's those fine margins between being an early team and doing it that are letting us down, I think, with the amount of draws we've had that should have been wins.
Just one thing I'd love to ask is about, because when I've seen Chesterfield play in the flesh, I've thought, I wouldn't say I necessarily want my team to play that way, but I'm always impressed, particularly when I've gone to your ground and I've thought, bloody hell, these guys really, as you talk about on the ball decisions, that's clear when you see them compared to some of the lesser liked players by me of ours at Salford. So I just wonder, is there a plan B? Is there a, is there an upper? You might be good at the jab. Is there an uppercut though? And because I tend to find that anything that's too predictable over too long a period of time, does it get sussed? Does it get countered? I don't know if that's applicable. It just feels like that to me in a way.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there, to be fair. I think, obviously, League Two in general is a very physical, direct league, isn't it? You know, teams get the ball forward as quickly as possible, put defences under pressure, set pieces, cross it to the box. Yeah. We're obviously more of a possession based team than that. And it can, when it works great. You know, you keep the ball, teams can't get it off you, you're creating chances left, right, and centre. But this year, I think just with the general trend that the way football's going as well, I mean, you know, teams are moving away a little bit from possession-based football, and we're getting more man-to-man marking, more aggressive pressing, and it's making the style of play harder to do. And I almost think you kind of need players who are too good for the level to be able to consistently do it to get promotion. And I remember last time Paul Cook was here, we won League Two, obviously playing the same style. And I think even that went down to the last game of the season. So, I mean, it's always been a tight league, hasn't it?
Well, you won promotion at Burton Albion the week before, I think.
Yes, we did. But the title went down to the last game. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I just think our style of play is getting harder to do unless you bring in exactly the right players, and possibly our recruitment's let us down a bit in some areas and we're not quite as optimal as we could be.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I think League Two is going that way, but I think there are examples of teams who have like a brilliant coach that are able to play that way. Like I think Grimsby, for instance, are probably one of the best. You know, an example that you can do it. But you mentioned having players who are too good for the level makes a difference. One signing that I absolutely loved was Sammy Braybrook, and I nearly went for him as my hipster choice in the team of the season so far with Newport County, even though I ended up going with, I think it was Kilkenny at Swindon. But Braybrook, I think, for me, is someone with a huge amount of potential. I'm just wondering how much you've seen of that in his early performances.
Yeah, he's been really good on the ball. I mean, he came straight into the team at MK Dons away, which obviously is a big ask. And him and Ryan Stirk absolutely ran the show at times. They let us break their press really, really well with those sort of sixpence turns that they do and first time passes out wide. Very, very composed on the ball. I think we probably saw the other side of him away at Newport, ironically, where I think at some point in the game, I mean, we played 4-4-2 that day anyway, which is very unlike us. We don't usually play with two up front, and it kind of left them. I thought it left the two central midfielders a bit exposed, because usually we'd have a number 10 who's also pressing off the ball, but they just ran directly through our midfield. And at one point, someone ran through Braybrook like he wasn't there, and I kind of just thought the balance isn't quite here in the midfield today. And you know, at times we miss, I think, a Tom Naylor, who, in my opinion, is better at breaking up play than Braybrook is. I mean, when we have him and Stirk, I think, did we have him and Stirk away at Salford? I think we did. And it was we were more solid. I mean, obviously, we had to hang on and we were a bit lucky to win that one. But, you know, we were more solid. And sometimes you do lack that solidity. I'm not blaming Braybrook for that. I'm just saying the overall balance of the squad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's everything's a trade-off, isn't it? Because, like, you could play Nurkenstaler. You could play Stirk and Naylor together and maybe not have much creativity, but you'd be rock solid. But you bring Braybrook in for the more creativity and the talent, but maybe lose that edge. And that's why Paul Cook's paid the big bucks, right? To make those calls.
Yeah.
Do you think Chesterfield make the top 7, Tom?
Yeah, I think we'll make top 7. I wouldn't feel confident saying any higher than that. I mean, if we finish 7th again, I mean, obviously, on the face of it, it's not progress from last season. It's the exact same finish, but I think I can see that happening. I don't think we'll finish much lower than that. If we miss out on the playoffs, it will be a failure of a season. I think.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Tom. Do you think if you finished in the playoffs and maybe didn't get promoted, fans would be asking questions of thinking, you know, do we need to freshen this up, or do you think the fan base is 100% behind? Because he does seem to be untouchable, doesn't he? It's felt like at times, Paul Cook.
Yeah, I think possibly from within the hierarchy of the club, yeah, he's untouchable. But I've seen quite a lot of angry fans recently on social media. There's a lot of people getting on his back saying that, as you guys have said, he has no plan B and that he's possibly got a little bit complacent and things like that. Personally, I don't think you get a much better manager in the lower leagues than Paul Cook, and I think sacking him would be a big mistake. But I can see why he's getting criticism for this year, and I do think he's not got everything right. But I don't think any manager gets everything right, and I think if we stick with him, ultimately we will go up eventually. It might not be this year, might not be next year, but I personally think long term he would get us promoted.
And also, it's one thing a section of fans are voicing certain views, but often what matters is the relations internally. And I always get the impression that Paul Cook has been pretty tight with Lee Kirk and figures, key figures upstairs. So that makes a lot of sense. And very good manager. Tom, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up with you later in the season.
Yeah, cheers, lads. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Tom.
Great stuff. Well, Colchester United beat Chesterfield 6-2 earlier in the season, and Ryan from Up the U's joins me now to discuss their playoff prospects. Ryan, where do you think Colchester are at in the playoff scramble mix?
If you go off the last two performances, personally, I would say that we're possibly falling away from it. Some key injuries to some really key players showed us that the finishes that Danny likes to talk about aren't quite like there is a gulf in class between the starting 11, the finishers that we bring on, and then the rest of the squad. Because them finishers have then become starting 11 players, and then the rest of the squad have become finishers. And it was plain to see that with Mbick out injured, with Lisby not quite fully fit, Bishop missing as well, Harry Anderson out for a while, LSE and Dolo out for a while. You're starting to see sort of start of January, we're sitting there thinking, right, this is it. Yeah, we're sitting all right. And then come the end of the transfer window, we're sitting there going, right, ideally we need a centre mid cover, we need left back cover, we potentially need a new winger because it looks like Lisby's on the go. It looks like Tavido's possibly on the go. There's all the talk about Mbick. So then you're looking at Goodwin to then become the goal scorer for us, but he's not looked like that sort of player. But I think that's just
he's a different type of player to Mbick, isn't he?
Exactly. I think he is someone that if you put him up front with someone, you'll get the best out of him. But sort of like Tavide, make him run the lines and make him run the channels. He can't do it.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking. I mean, I remember we were on I think we actually appointed our managers about the same week, didn't we, Ryan? Because I remember, and I actually thought at the time that we'd come off the worst. And I'm not saying, that there's sometimes there's not been that much to pick. I think we've now got, a lot of money behind it, and that could probably make me look like a good manager. So, but it's just interesting to see that from the point of when the Cowleys came in, has it met your expectations? Is it what you envisioned? Is it enough?
I think if you was to ask any Colchester fan and they was to say to you, I expected the Cowleys to come in and we get promoted in the first season, I think you'd be like, come on. Like, you'd be like, all right, yeah, I can see it. They've got the track record with Lincoln. They've got the track record when there was a Concord and a Braintree, but football was so much different back then. For how football's played now, don't get me wrong. I think,
and also, sorry, just to jump in on that, Ryan, as well, I would argue Lincoln City had much more going for them infrastructure-wise than maybe Colchester United do now.
And I think that Danny says about it as well. If you look at the front three that he had for Lincoln in that year, I think one of them was Ollie Watkins and the other was Morgan Rogers, who are now both ripping it up for Aston Villa.
No, sorry, that was actually under Michael Appleton.
Was it?
Danny Cowley didn't have those two. He had John Akinde. They actually had Jack Payne, who's now with your lot. And Harry Anderson as well. Yeah, but pretty much just named.
But no, I think obviously when he came in, it was a very horrible time with Colchester because I think it was the season where we were like we're just scraping by. I think the season before is when we got really close to the relegation, or it might have even been their first season.
Yeah, they came in, didn't they? And you stayed. Was it mathematically stayed up on the final day? But it was probably.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was that it might have. Yeah, it might have been their first season where on the last day we could still have gone down.
But it was a convenient draw with Crewe, wasn't it? I seem to remember.
Yeah, it was a really weird one because I think we went 1-0 up, then Crewe made it 1-1, and then everyone just stood around. But for both teams, it was like you've got the playoffs, we've got the survival. So it was a win-win really for everyone. But I think this season, I think going on what happened last season with the sort of climbing up the table, getting some good results, I think this season it was a sort of case of let's push for the playoffs. Let's be, instead of that team that creep in at the end, let's be that team that are in there sort of all season. But it's just, I think the injuries coming at the wrong time. Obviously, everything that was going on with the takeover. I still personally think the start of the season, the takeover, where that fell through, I think both Danny and Nicky were like, we've now not got.
You'd rather have not had any hope. It's better to not have hope. Is the lesson that I've taken.
Yeah, definitely.
Hope that kills you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they'd have had a list where
your expectations are absolutely on the floor.
They would have
to live with that reality.
they'd have had their list of like strikers, for example. They'd been like, right, we've got name A, name B, name C, name D. With the takeover, they were like, name A, name B, perfect. But then where it didn't come through, they're like, right, now name C has now become name A. But the gulf between the two maybe were.
The name family were in for a few quid, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong. Micah and Bick might have been D on the list, but he's turned out all right.
Been a category signing, hasn't he?
I think in the Cowleys we trust. I think that's the main thing. The buzz that they've brought to the club. You see him before the games. Danny will come out and he'll go all the way around the edge of the West Stand and the South Stand. He'll talk to you. You could ask him literally anything. If a player was out injured, you say, "Oh, why is he not playing?" He'll come out and he'll be like, "Injured, picked up an injury." Yeah. He won't just be like, "Oh, it's tactical" or anything like that.
Yeah. That honestly, Ryan, that way of going about things as a manager makes such a difference. Yeah. And there's managers who are less like that, who would argue you'll only have the fans if you're getting results. And that's partially true, but actually for lower league football, the reason why you'd support Colchester United, unless it's through birth or your family or whatever, is because you get that sense of community and feeling involved and connection to people. And I think if you're a manager who can give people that makes a massive difference to the feeling around the club. So I think you're 100% right to bring that up. I've got to talk about the midfield, unfortunately, Ryan, because it's so frustrating that you've not got Ben Perry or Arthur Reed available. And I suppose you're putting pretty much all your hopes on Finley Barbrook being the one.
Yeah, so the Barbrook one was interesting. Again, I think he was someone that the Cowleys had pointed out at the start of the transfer window that they wanted to get in, but there was something either at the club he was at or there was something just wasn't quite lining up, which then meant that instead of getting him at the start of the window, we've got him at the end. He had 24 hours with the club. He had one training session. It's a lot less than what Finn Back had. We picked him up at Cambridge and he sort of on the coach went, "Hi, my name's Finn." He didn't know. Apparently he knew no one's first names. He just was calling them mate or something for the whole game, which I think
Ryan, when you introduce to a new group and you're like the new guy and everyone introduces themselves and you've got no chance of remembering all their names.
He said he was like, "I met all the lads on the way up here. I don't know their first names." And he played as if he'd played all season, which goes to show the sort of player we've got there. But I think you look at our midfield, and if you was to look and say Bishop, Reed, and Payne as like a sort of little triangle, and then players like Ben Perry to come in, now obviously with Finley Barbrook, you'd sit there and go, "Do you know what? Probably one of the strongest sort of mid, especially Bishop, Reed, and Payne, probably one of the strongest little triangles, in the league." But Bishop's injured. Reed picks up some injuries from time to time. Payne's come back from an injury that kept him out a while and plays every minute of every game and runs around like a headless chicken. It just takes one more injury for one of them, and then we're sitting there going, now what? Rob Hunt, fair play to him, hat off, brilliant cameo in the midfield, but you could sort of see didn't quite have that cutting edge maybe that Bishop and Reed have as natural centre midfielders. But yeah, he's hoping that with Barbara, hopefully with Bishop coming back, Reed getting back to full fitness, that we can try and shore up that midfield and hopefully at the weekend get some 3 points.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering, Ryan, if you could, something I picked out. I was looking at 2 of your recent defeats, I think your last 2 defeats, and I think they were both by 1-0, if my notes are right. And I noticed that the possession stats showed that you were 63 and 62% in those. And is that what the other team wants you to have? You know what I mean? Are they kind of getting what they want and forcing you to play that role? I just wondered.
I think with how the team is currently with the injuries, I think yes. I think teams are looking at it thinking, you've not got Mbick, you've not got a fully fit Lisby, you've not got a Bishop in the midfield, you've not got an Ellis on the left back to create something forward. So yeah, have the ball, because your main key threats aren't there. So you can keep the ball, you can do what you want with the ball, you can pull it on your head like a seal and run around in circles. That's fine. But I think teams, the Grimsby game was obviously a bit different. Grimsby were really, really good. I was very impressed with them. Then they got, I think it's Kieran Green sent off, and they just went, right, everyone back. They put all 10 behind the ball, and that's where that possession stat just grew and grew.
I get that, yeah.
The game against Crewe, though, we just lacked that last little bit. We just lacked that little dynamic player to just create something out of nothing. I think Crewe had 3 shots, and I think they scored with their first shot on target. And it was a real smash and grab victory for them. And it was one for us that we sit there. And I think personally, with a fully fit team, coach to win that game. And if we played how we played with the ball and everything like that against Crewe, I think we were easily coming away there with a 2, maybe 3-0 win. But such is life. All the games we play in League Two, it's a tall order, isn't it? A little calf injury turns from being a couple of days out to, well, actually, with all the games I've played, I'm actually going to be out for a week. You go, right, well, we got 3 games in a week, so that's a lot of football to miss.
Do you think, Ryan, if I think of Colchester in the first half of the season at their best, it's playing the balls in behind for Micah and Bick, something you did really well at Walsall, for instance, some other games as well. You've got Jack Payne who can thread them through, can't he? But I think what maybe without Mbick, what you've got to do now is embrace becoming a good crossing side or a direct team, a bit like Cowley's Lincoln side when they had Matt Reed before he was phased out in their sort of a bit more in their title-winning season. I think Will Goodwin can be a sort of younger, fresher version of Matt Reed, because he's actually a bit taller, I think, but he's got a real work ethic and can get on the end of crosses. So I would be looking at Finn Back and Hunt and anyone else in the team you think might be able to swing in a good delivery and get Goodwin on the end of things and playoff knockdowns.
Yeah, that is for me. I think that's where we'll get the best Will Goodwin, is when you sort of say to him, just occupy in the sort of parameters of the box. Don't worry about having to press wide, press right, press left, everything like that. The wingers will do that. You just be that guy in the middle that we can play the ball up to. And yeah, like you say, Goodwin can jump. He can flick the ball on. A little flick on behind just to get it over the defender. And someone like Lisby sprinting down the wing onto it, or at the moment, Awara Edwards, you're sort of sitting there thinking, do you know what? They've got a half chance of getting on it. Then the player on the other side makes the run in the box, and then Goodwin's arriving from late, and it's just creates that sort of thing. But I think where we've got Will Goodwin as our main striker, I think maybe a 4-3-3 would work better, because he's not a play the ball, like you say, play the ball in behind and get him to run onto it. And then when Mbick comes back, we go back to the sort of 4-2-3-1 with Payne playing as like the sort of shadow striker sort of role. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm just a guy standing in his bedroom in Essex. Danny's got a bit more experience than what I've got. So
he might also be standing in his bedroom in Essex. We don't know.
Very true.
Do you think Colchester will reach the top 7, Ryan?
Let me pull up the table.
I mean, if it's 75 points required, Might be less than that. Let's say 72. Colchester need 30 points from 18 games, which I mean, I think if you still had the January window to really strengthen the squad, and you could guarantee certain players coming back fit quickly, I would say that you've got as good a chance as anyone. But at the moment, it does feel like momentum's elsewhere.
I'll be honest, the fact that I'm taking this long, I'd possibly say I think we're going to miss out.
Last time you were like so bullish, you're like...
I think I might have to just... I used the analogy last time that I'll leave my coat in the room and then next year I'll make sure it's there. I might have to leave it in the room again. You just look at how the league is going at the moment. It's still very, very tight up there. You've got probably 4 or 5 teams that are fighting for the top 3 places. You've then probably got a plethora of sort of 6 to 8 teams then fighting for the playoff spots. And I sit here now saying, no, we go and win 3 games on the bounce. And I'm sitting there going, we can win the league. For me, currently standing here right now, I would say I think we might just miss out again. But who knows? Get a nice string of results go your way and suddenly you start climbing, and then you invite me on talking about champions, and I'm sitting there with a Bromley fan saying we're going to beat you.
It's like Gab said though about the hope that we were actually last season, Salford, we had it in our own hands on the last day of the season against Carlisle. Didn't do it. Didn't do it. You know, so that you know, I wouldn't have gone to that game actually unless we were that close to the playoff situation. So yeah, it's when it does drag it out that far, it's kind of exciting, but it's also worse. It gives you a worse break. So I don't know which way around is best, just to not be in it at all, or to nearly be in it and not be in it. I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm going to bring in Adam Howard from the View from the Finders podcast, because he might be able, because you're not missed out on the playoffs on the final day. Adam, would you have taken a 9th place finish where you finish 5 points off the playoffs and you know you're out a couple of weekends before the end, or would you have rather have taken it to the final day? Which one's better or worse for a fan?
Now here's a question to start on. What I will say is, before I answer that, I don't know how Ryan's got away with that huge badge on his wall. I'm just thinking, my missus, what are you up to in the bedroom, Adam? I just painted a 6-foot town badge on the wall like that. Whoa, I'd be for it there. I mean, that's a really difficult question. It's heartbreaking, isn't it, when you lose on the last day and you don't make it. Having said that, last year we were obviously playing Wimbledon. You was at the game, Gab.
Yeah.
And they were a very good side. Where we'd come from the season before, we'd never expected to make the playoffs. So last season, I was all quite laid back about the whole situation, thinking, yes, we're making progress. We're going in the right direction. If it happened again this year, I think it'd be too much to take almost, Gab. So, yeah, I think miss out 2 or 3 weeks before this year would be, even though it's not progress, it would almost be easier to stomach, mate.
Yeah, it depends on the context, doesn't it? Well, listen, want to say, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up later in the season, hopefully with Colchester still in there. Or well, the way this conversation is going, hopefully they're out of it and you don't have to stop the heartache.
No, right, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers, Ryan. Top man.
Cheers.
There's a beauty of laying on the beach.
Absolutely, yeah, enjoying the sunset. Although maybe not so much in Cleethorpes.
Not in February anyway, Gab.
Wanted to ask you, Adam, gosh, been a really impressive run, isn't it? 5 straight wins, 6 straight clean sheets. Grimsby Town going to concede a league goal again?
Yeah, well, it is today, actually. National Creator Vacuum Day. And I think we've been a little bit random day for you there, Danny. A little stat for you when you're in the pub later to share around. But I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve because we've been creating one in the back of our net for a long time. Not much has hit it for a long, long time.
Oh, of course, it was the 2-2 with
MK Dons. Having said that, the MK Dons game in the last match, it finished 2-2. Yeah, we conceded a couple. But the first one for Jackson Smith to finally be beaten was a very controversial penalty decision. AKA, it was never a penalty. I mean, there's controversial and then there's blatant dives. And the second one was just one of those where it takes a couple of wicked deflections and goes in the bottom corner. That's how you look sometimes, isn't it? Another day, that goes wide or is cleared. So, yeah. Sorry, full of cold at the moment. But yeah, defensively, we are looking very sound at the moment. And as I'm sure we'll speak about, we've also added to those defensive ranks recently.
Well, I wonder if it was the name Maldini was the inspiration for your top.
Exactly that. Yeah, you got it, Gab. Not much gets past you, mate. Yeah. that was
like Jackson Smith.
It was surreal the other day, sort of 10 minutes before kickoff, and we introduced onto the pitch our new signing, Maldini. I mean, it was just a bit of a bizarre, obviously not the man, but a defender called Maldini. Yeah, we'll have a bit of that.
Next signing is Nesta Guinness-Walker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Danny, what do you make of Grimsby? What's on your mind when it comes to the Mariners?
What in general?
Oh, sorry, I was actually asking my co-host, Dan.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I was going to say, that's a broad question for me, Gab. I could go on about all sorts. Over to you, Danny.
Oh, sorry, I think you're on mute, Danny.
That says it all, mate. That's what he thinks of the Mariners.
Third time lucky. Oh, he's still on mute. Have I got you? I don't know if you can fiddle with the setting. Do you know what? I'll come back to you, Danny. I'll ask Adam a question. Do you think Maldini will find it easy getting straight into the team, given the partnership that Sam Lavelle, since his return from injury, has struck up with newly contracted Cameron McJanet?
No, I don't think he'll walk straight into the team, and I don't think it was a signing to walk straight into the team. Obviously, he's 20 years of age. In terms of first team football, he was loaned out to Morecambe. He's had a little bit of experience. However, again, I think it's like a lot of our signings have been over the last couple of years. One with a view for the future, possibly even more so with a view for next season, which it works for me because the centre-half partnership at the moment of McJanet, who has been absolutely wonderful all season, and great to see that the club had an option to exercise an extra year on his contract, because that came out the blue. It hadn't been mentioned that year was there. I mean, of course, we're always going to take it with the quality he's shown, but it did come out the blue a little bit. So he's been superb, but alongside him, Lavelle has come in and slotted in beautifully in Tham's absence. Defensively, we are looking pretty sound at the moment. We're not giving away too much at all. So, I think Maldini's come in. He seems like he's of the Doug Tham mould, which again makes sense with Tham being out for the season now, we've found out. But I don't think he's coming in to replace Tham. I think he's coming in to learn from the defenders we've got already and probably have a bit of a bit part role this season. And moving forward, we'll probably see more of him in the future. Having said that, who knows? I mean, I've said this sort of thing before, and then we might find on Saturday at Newport away it's a McJanet Maldini partnership at the back.
Never know. Danny, what's on your mind when it comes to Grimsby?
Yeah, I hope my audio's coming through now.
Can hear you loud and clear, mate.
It's when we switch guests, for some reason, it always seems to just, I don't know what it is anyway, but the thing that I was going to ask, or the things that come to mind, is that many years ago, I remember Bolton Wanderers, which was my local team when I grew up, had a lot of good cup runs under Bruce Rioch, and they were a team that were far beyond, what would you say? Beyond their parts, they actually achieved far more than they should have, really. And I'm just wondering, is that where you are? Because I look at like Vernon, etc., and I think I'm very impressed anytime I see him. I think he's brilliant. Is it like a few individuals, or is it a team thing? How do you see it from your angle?
So I think we are collectively looking like an excellent team now. I think there's a real togetherness with that side. I think as well, what really showed that was the Colchester game that the last guest was talking about. We were well on top away at Colchester, another side fancied for the playoffs potentially. We go down to 10 men, and it was such a dogged, everybody throwing everything on the line performance. There was a real togetherness with the team.
It always feels significant, doesn't it, when you win like an away game with 10 men, and it's a different type of win that can carry a real symbolism for the rest of the season sometimes, can't it?
It certainly can, yeah. And I would say this sort of time's a great time to have one of those as well, going into the last third of the season. That togetherness, that building the confidence. It's a positive time for that to happen. But we've also, as a team, we work well together, but there are individuals within our side that can win a game for you. Vernon being one of those. He's the sort of player that can score 2 goals out of very little and win a match for you. Hence why I feel like we're going on some of these cup runs. I mean, when you've got players in your side like that, you've got potential to go on a cup run because you can win a game from nowhere. I guess it's worth mentioning, obviously, we've made the 4th round of both cups. The last time we did that was 97-98, and we were promoted from what was then Division 2, now League 1, back into the Championship, Division 1 back then. So, yeah.
Alan Buckley era, was it?
Alan Buckley era, yeah. So the omens are looking good, Danny.
Well, I'll just give you one word of caution, though, because I mean, we're talking possibly... Well, it was last season against Man City. We had a run of 8 clean sheets in 9. Then we let 8 in. Then we had a terrible January. Osama Ashton got injured, and we missed out on the playoffs. So I don't wish that on anybody. But you know, when you have these brilliant runs that are built on like a solid defence, where you look like a seriously cohesive team, it can be what I don't know whether it was the good hiding we got by City, or that particular crucial injury. And at the time, Stefan Negru, who seems to have fallen off a cliff performance-wise because he's gone to Tranmere. That's a weird decision. But he was also recalled by Oxford in prime form. So, yeah, it can just be 4th round, great. And I wish you well. I hope what happened to us doesn't happen to you, because it's a killer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the bonus we've got is... we've got Wolves at home, not Manchester City away.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it feels like if it goes badly wrong for us, it's more likely to be a 3-0 than an 8-0, and that's less demoralising and less season-destroying, I guess.
That's it, yeah.
I would back Grimsby to be competitive against Wolves. Adam, couple of sort of 2 questions in one for me, just to round off. Do you think Grimsby get top 7, firstly? And secondly, do you still think you've got a sniff of the automatics? Because I do.
I think there is a very good chance still we could make top 7. And I think that basically, Gab, it's a very similar answer to the one I've given you previously on here. I believe the only thing that would probably stop us is the quality of some of the other sides. I mean, Salford, Danny's team have spent, MK Dons have obviously spent some serious money, and there's a lot of teams putting a bit of form together. Notts County, I always think any side with Jatta up front, and there's going to be goals in them. He's a quality League 2 operator. But there are some sides that are wobbling and potential to go badly wrong. I think Walsall are doing what they did again, aren't they? I mean, to be a Walsall fan, they're suddenly wobbling the wrong side of Christmas. and Swindon as well. Although they've not blown up completely, there's been some peculiar rants from Holloway, and you just wonder where that is going to all lead.
Got a bit Kevin Keegan.
Exactly, and normally when a manager goes like that, it doesn't always end well. There seems to be a lot of stress on that man at the moment. I know it's part of his act, his persona, his whatever, but yeah, I do wonder what will happen there. So yeah, I give us a chance at top 7. Personally,
3 o'clock on Saturday, Holloway had a full head of hair.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, afro. So there's a picture. Right. The joys of AI now, that won't be too difficult to put out. You know how to promote this pod now, Gab. Just a picture of Holloway afro. There you go. Enjoy tonight's pod. But yeah, personally, I don't think we go on good enough a run to make top 3, simply because I think there's too many sides that will mean that we would have to go on an immense run to get there. Sure. So, we're sort of 7 or 8 points behind teams like Salford at the moment. We would need to better them and match them and better them by about 3 games.
Could I just comment on that, Adam, if I could? Just where you mentioned Salford, is that I don't know how widely this is known, but I do believe it's reliable information. We made 2 bids for Drinan at Swindon. So
I did,
a banker of like guaranteed goals. We were talking about Macaulay Langstaff, as I did all last week, as Gab knows. Didn't happen. But
you've talked about Macaulay Langstaff more than you talked about Salford players.
Yeah, I know. I'm wishing for a different team. But if you look at actually the business we did do towards the end of the window, 2 young loanees. So it's for me. I'm sure the documentary "This Is Salford" that the club produces will paint it in a very different way, as Carl's already doing in an article on the website and saying this is great quality. And I like the look of the centre half from Tottenham, Alfie Dorrington. He's doing some ball carrying that I have never seen before, admittedly in academy football and in Scotland. But my point is that we wanted to put this to bed by bringing in a banker up front. We wanted to absolutely kill this league. And we've not done it because we probably had enough money, but nobody wanted to sell us their prized assets. So I wouldn't get carried away too much, as I never do with Salford. I'm always quite critical. It might be all that glitters is not gold. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Moving on. Adam, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to chatting later in the season.
Of course, yeah. Thank you ever so much, Gab, and hopefully we'll be talking on another promotion playoff pod within a few weeks' time, and not on a beachy mid-table one. Take care. See you soon. Wonderful as always, Danny, as well. Thank you. Take care. See you soon. I'm off to go and get the stencils out and paint the back wall. Get that sound badge on there. Laura's out at the moment.
Good luck having that conversation, Adam.
Yeah. Well, with my art skills, if I did it freehand as well, it'd look interesting.
Oh, God,
is that a fish or a leopard? What is that? Right. Take care. See you soon, guys.
Man, Adam. Cheers. So my next guest, we will be joined by Sam from the Debrief on Barnet, but for now we're joined by Tom Boone from the Railwaymen podcast on Crewe Alexandra, and hope Danny's mic holds up. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time this evening. It's been a very up and down season for Crewe Alexandra. They're just about clinging on to this. We've won 1 more game than we've lost, and when that's the case, it's hard to sort of be overly critical. But there are sections of the fan base that have expressed certain views, shall we say?
Yeah, I think up and down sort of describes it perfectly. But it hasn't been that it's just been up and down. It's that the ups have been up here and the downs have been, very down low. It's sort of a hard one to explain as a neutral, because you're sort of trying to explain it to other fans, and I think you're going along all right, and it's like, yeah, we are, but if in terms of points and in terms of performances, sure, but it's sort of the stark contrast in knowing what we can be and what we have been at our very best this season, and then seeing it unfold on other days where we're just at our complete worst.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's part of me that does get your frustration that you see how good this team can be in some games and some parts of the season, and then see them not do the basics in other games. But I suppose, I look at the 11 that you had at Barnet in midweek, and there's some really good players in there, don't get me wrong, but there's also players that you've maybe had to gamble on a little bit. And so I'm sort of, for me, and without repeating yourself, because we've had similar conversations before, but I'm always mindful of the sort of the average of the squad. So there are 5 or 6 brilliant players who you say, yes, they're top end League Two players, and others that you think, they're a work in progress.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's sort of how a club like Crewe has to operate. You almost have to gamble on them 5 or 6 being fit and available for a large part of the season, and hoping that the rest, who are mostly sort of either academy lads or whether it be loanees, you have to hope that they sort of raise their levels. And we've seen mixed results in that. I think definitely this season some academy lads have pushed on. I think Billington, I think Lunt, I think Calamagius, I think those 3 have really pushed on to a new level.
I really like Owen Lunt,
I'm a big Owen Lunt fan, and he's almost a great asset for us because he's not immediately eye-catching when you look at his numbers. You don't look at him as a 5 or 6 goals and assists a season. He's almost does all the nitty-gritty, hard-running, goes in for those crunching tackles, a real work rate midfielder, a bit like Kenny Lunt was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So he's not quite, I hope at least, not catching the attention of League
You
One.
always want him to. I think when you're an academy-run club, you don't want your best players to be so good that you end up risk losing them, and sometimes for a pittance. And then you're almost worse off than actually if they were like a really consistent 7 out of 10, but they can be a stalwart for Crewe Alexandra for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's almost like you'd rather have that than losing for 200.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because from a financial point of view, you do need one of them sort of 9 or 10 out of 10 performance player. You need a Nick Powell or a Charlie Kirk / Harry Pickering type player to make money for the club. And as recently as Conor O'Riordan, that's who that was. That was a very consistent, very good League Two centre-back who got the move to the Championship for £500,000. We need a balance, and I think Owen Lunt is the perfect balance of that, where if a club from League One came in for him, it wouldn't surprise me, but I'd be shocked if they're sort of targeting someone like him, because he's not a threat in terms of goals and assists very consistently, but he gets into the right areas quite a lot.
I just had one thing, if I could, if my mic's still working.
Yes.
Right. Because like I said, every guest, it just goes off. Is that I think what you were talking about with, younger players and that is the same for loan players, that, you want a loan, you don't want them getting recalled. I mean, was it last year, Walsall? Load of goals, Nathan, whatever he's called, Nathan Law, he's gone, and they bring Ethan Wheatley in. It's never the same again. So it's kind of the same. I mean, you've got Tesgel, who's got 8, and I mean that's good. I would say it's real. I don't know. I don't quite know how good his performance is, because I don't watch it week on week.
Yeah.
But how would you say that loan is in terms of it being a success beyond the goals?
Emre Tesgel's been an absolute success, and to be honest, I think he would have got recalled had he not got injured. He got injured at the very back end of December, and he was sort of in real fine goal scoring form. His performances were being matched by goals, because he'd found it hard to break into the team over Josh March. But once Josh March went out injured, Tesgel just slotted in, scored a hat-trick v Grimsby in a 3-2 win, and then just sort of never stopped scoring after that, to be honest. And had he been fit and available, I think League One clubs definitely would have been asking Stoke. They would have been saying, is he available in January? Could we take him off Crewe's hands? And I'm not saying we're lucky he's injured, because obviously that's the worst case scenario for Emre. And in terms of our own goal scoring, it wasn't ideal. But the fact that he's out for around another month, 6 weeks now, means that we might get him at the very key back end of the season. And hopefully that's how it works out for him. But I think he's been a real success of a loan, to be honest with you, as has Tommy O'Reilly.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Tommy O'Reilly, Tom, because he's often played on the right-hand side for your lot, paired with Billow. But I actually think quite like him combining with Hutch, because when he's with Billow, you obviously get that security, and you allow him to be that flair player, that individual, because you got the insurance. on the other hand, I actually really like the link up with Hutch, because Hutch offers that bit of drive and verve, doesn't he? And the link up play between O'Reilly and Hutchinson is a really nice opportunity. I think he does link up with Billet, but maybe not quite as aggressively and sort of penetratively. Whereas I think with Hutch, there is that short, snappy passing and releasing Hutch, and I think that can bring the best out of his creative qualities.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it like you say, it's rare we've actually seen him on that left-hand side. It'll be maybe an in-game switch. It's happened a few times, but I don't think there's been many occasions, if any, where he's actually started on the left with Hutch. And I think Agius and Hutch have formed a really good partnership as well down that left-hand side. And I think what Lewis Billington offers is he does actually offer quite a bit of attacking threat. It's just that whenever he does, it almost takes an extra man out and allows Tommy to, like you say, have that bit of individualistic flair, if you will, and take on his man. I mean, Billington's been contributing recently with a few more assists and a few very nice sort of crosses. But yeah, Tommy O'Reilly in front of him is a brilliant sort of ideal to have in terms of that defensive security and then that attacking flair. But O'Reilly's been a weird one in recent weeks because his performances have still been there and they've still been good, but you can just tell that he's fatigued a bit. And I think had we had more players fit and available to replace him, I think he would have been rested a bit more this season. So he's had his real standout moments this season, and I worry whether it's almost running out of steam a little bit, and through no fault of his own, just the sheer amount of minutes that he's been exposed to in sort of his first loan where he's getting consistent games, 90 minutes once or twice a week.
Do you think Crewe make the top 7, Tom?
Oh, I honestly don't know. I keep toying with it. I keep thinking it'll come down to big games. We got that big win over Colchester. That felt like a real moment that could push on our season. But I think we'll do well to keep within touching distance. It's whether we strike on that, for me, is the question. And I think we could, but it'll be very dependent on how serious is Max Sanders' injury. How close are we to a Jack Lancaster return? Is Omar Bogle going to be fit and available for the next few weeks / months? Is Emre Tezgel going to be available soon? It's sort of down to those factors. I mean, poor Mickey Dimitri was, he's only playing one game a week at the minute, and bless him, he's playing on one leg. He is just playing through the injury for the better of the team, and that sums him up as a leader. But it feels like we are running out of steam a little and sort of hanging on with little results here and there to stay within the playoff distance.
Well, hopefully you do get that bit of luck with injuries and things can amalgamate in the last third of the campaign. Tom, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward
to the
campaign.
Cheers,
Tom. So our final guest this evening is Sam from the B Brief. Sam, good evening. Thank you for joining us. How are you feeling about Barnet's playoff prospects?
How am I feeling about Barnet's playoff prospects? It's a tricky one. I think the fan base is actually a bit kind of divided on it. There's loads of context behind it. Well, obviously, it's our first season back in the EFL for a long time. To be where we are is a good season in itself. I think the frustration is we feel like we've dropped points in frustrating situations. And had we turned all of our draws, I know that's a stupid thing to say, but had we turned our draws into, there was a run where we went on 6 games in a row, where we drew 6 games in a row. Had we turned 2 or 3 of those into wins, we'd be sat in the playoffs right now. But it's also a recurring theme where we're not getting over the line for a reason, and we're not scoring enough goals at the end of the day, which is such a stark difference to what Dean Brennan's teams are normally like. But we just haven't been able to consistently put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, our top goal scorers are our centre-back and Adam Senior. We just haven't been able to get a consistent amount of goals this season, and that's where I think we might fall short.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I mean, I thought when I was looking at goals, was it not Shelton who's got quite a few?
Yeah, Shelton's got a few from midfield.
Which I was surprised by, because when I saw him at Oldham, if it's the same Shelton, I presume it is. I was like, how's a defensive midfielder getting this number of goals, and why is somebody not getting more than him?
Yeah, Shelton's brilliant for us last season in the National League as well. He obviously came to us with a reputation from Oldham fans where he was really not well liked.
That's right.
Didn't work for him whatsoever there for whatever reason. But since coming to us, he's been brilliant. In terms of last season, he was fantastic, and this season, to be fair to him, I didn't think he would actually be able to be in the side. I thought when you look at the squad from last season, he'd be one that we'd be looking to upgrade, but he's been so important to us this season. He's got quite a few goals. He does take penalties, which probably does up that goal tally as well. But yeah, just we haven't been able to find goals. Obviously, our strikers and Love has obviously moved on to Notts County at this point, but he was never really a clinical goal scorer. Steady scored 90 goals last season for us. He is just not in the squad for us anymore at the minute. He had a whole transfer debacle, which from the start of January, his agent, from what I understand, his agent, he was going to go to Gillingham. That deal fell through. He's now not training with the squad. He's not available for us for selection. He scored 90 goals for us last season, so he's not playing. We brought Stombalonga in. Hasn't got any minutes really in the last few weeks. So,
well, the one I wanted to speak to you about, I don't know if you've covered this yet, was Kabonga Shimanga, because I embarrassed myself slightly by going on the buzz on Barnet FC TV a couple of weeks ago, and I questioned the signing based on Shimanga's record in the Football League. And it's probably proved the perfect motivation for him, because he's gone on to score 3 goals already. So I'm looking like a bit of a lemon there. But he's I really liked his goal against Crewe in midweek, and I'm just wondering if you think he can be part of the solution to this, to these challenges in front of goal that you're encountering.
I think he can be. I mean, the fact he's already scored 3 goals for us, I think that's already an upgrade on what we've had for our strikers this season. He hasn't been given loads of chances, so the fact that he has scored 3, I mean, obviously on his debut, 1 was a penalty, the other one was a typical striker's finish where obviously down to 10 men against Oldham, and then suddenly in the 80th minute, ball comes across, he's just alive in the box when it comes off the post. And then last night, obviously, was an instinctive finish more than anything else. He's managed to get in behind Hawkins, and as he flicks it on, he's just hit it, and it's gone right into it's a proper good finish. We haven't really got strikers that do that. Britt scored a very similar goal. I think it was against Harrogate when he scored that goal. It was very, very similar, but he just hasn't been able to get anywhere in this side. So I think Shimanga can be the answer there. I just think there are probably bigger issues at play than just a striker. I think there's loads of context. Got like the second lowest budget in the league.
Really?
Yeah,
that surprises me, given that Tony Clenthouse is one of the richest people in England.
The issue with the owner, and like it's a long going issue with the owner, is he invested money a long time ago when we had well, not a long time ago, but when we had Darren Curry as the manager, we invested so much money in that team. It didn't work out. Obviously, we fell short. And then COVID happened, and basically he's come out and admitted he basically fell out of love with Barnet and with football in general. And then obviously Brennan's come in. He's worked absolute miracles at the football club. I mean, he's built slowly. If it wasn't for COVID, we would have been relegated into the National League South. That season got null and voided, and we got lucky and everything. Since then, we went appointed Harry Kuehl, and that was absolutely horrendous. But then Brennan came in straight after that, and from then we've just got better and better. We finished 8th in his first full season, finished 3rd in his second season. Obviously, in his 3rd season, we ended up going up with 102 points last season. But because he's worked miracles, I feel like the owner thinks he can continue to keep working miracles. And Brennan is in his interview after Shrewsbury. I thought he's made loads of great interviews for Barnet. I'm sure people have seen them before. But I thought the one after the Shrewsbury game was really, really good. He was very calm, and he just basically said, we need to figure out as a football club how we stop this cycle and how we progress. So like we can keep this cycle where we have a go in League Two, fall short because we don't really have the money to do it. We eventually fall away, we get relegated, we end up back in the National League, and then we end up getting ourselves promoted out of the National League again. We end up back in League Two. And then again, it will just end up in the same cycle over and over again. It's like, how do we get to the next point of being able to sustain ourselves in League Two? And like, we're a small club for the level. We don't have the fan base that loads of other clubs do. The issue of not being in Barnet is a huge issue. People may not be aware of where we actually are playing our home games. There was one of the Barnet. There's an account called Downhill Second Half, and they put a poll out saying how long does it take average to get to home games, and most people have to travel 45 minutes to get to a home game. So our attendances aren't brilliant. So that plays a factor in how much money we can pump into the club. So there's a lot of factors at play which mean that we can't progress. But we've got the manager, and I genuinely believe that I just have so much faith in the manager and the management team to get us to a certain place. I just wish we were able to back him a bit more. We're not expecting to spend the likes of MK Dons and obviously what Salford, but we don't have that sort of capability of doing that. But even if you gave him just a bit more than what we have, we would be. I honestly believe we'd be able to sustain ourselves in this league. But it's about how we break that mold at the minute, because there's a set mold at the club which we can't really go away from at the minute.
Just one thing, going back to, well, when we brought him in, Adi Aluo, I checked every single message board post I could find, as much information as I could from every source online I could find, that he wasn't one of your two best centre halves. And I take it you're going to confirm that, but he's been an ever-present when he's fit in a top 3 team. So first of all, does that surprise you? And well, does that surprise you, first of all, I guess?
It doesn't surprise me. Addy was brilliant for us. I mean, absolutely brilliant for us. But we do have a plethora of talent at centre-back.
Yeah, so I've read.
With Danny Collins, he's been here for years. He's our longest-serving player. He's been absolutely fantastic. He could play much higher up. We play a back 3. We can play a back 4. We're very flexible. But Danny's normally the right centre-back. We have Tavares in the middle of the back 3, who I genuinely think is next level. I mean, he should be playing so much higher up. And that was Addy and Tavares kind of both played in that central position.
Oh, of course. Yeah, he's a middleman, he's Addy. He lets you, I can't remember if I've conversed with you about this before, but he allows us to play so much higher because of his recovery pace.
Yeah.
It's a cheat code.
Yeah, it really is. But Tavares can do almost basically the same thing. So they were kind of both doing the same thing. And then we brought in Adam Senior this season, who's been on the left of the back 3 mainly, although he's now playing at right wing back. We also had Miles Kenlock last season, playing left centre back, who was unbelievable, won our player of the season. But he did his ACL right at the end of last season, so he hasn't been able to play this season. So Addy, I'm not surprised he's gone on, because he was arguably too good to be not playing him. He was playing a lot, but when you've got that amount of talent, it's like, where do you play? And I think his contract was up at the end of the summer, and it was like, where's he going to? It was kind of inevitable that he was going to move on, because Tavares signed a new contract in the summer, Danny signed a new contract in the summer, so he was going to go. But I'm not surprised he's gone on and done brilliantly for you guys.
He's just a bit too nice as a defender, I'll just say that. I wish he'd start roughing more people up a bit. Just be a bit more of a beast, like you look like you are. He's built like one. Just act like one. And I think he's trying to. I think Carl's getting in his ear, but he plays the game like it's almost a bit of a non-contact sport. I don't know if it was the same for you guys.
He's such a lovely guy as well. Such a guy. He scored some important goals for us last season as well. Chipped in with some really good goals. So, I love Addy, and he was brilliant for us. It's just that we do have so much talent at the back that it was a case of, it made sense financially as well. I'm sure he's getting paid a lot more at Salford than he was. Of
course,
absolutely. Do you think Barnet are going to finish in the top 7, Sam?
I would love to say that we can. Obviously, optimistically, I'd love to say we're on a good run of form. We've only lost 1 in the last 8, but again, there's just too many draws in that. Really, we've got some teams around us though that we've got coming up. If we win on Saturday against Walsall, we're 3 points off them. Had we won last night and then won on Saturday, we would have been above Walsall. So like that, but that's been the case all season. It's like we're getting close and then don't get close enough. So we're kind of always playing catch up. And I just look at the teams above us and I just think, I'm not sure how we're going to close that gap. We're going to have to keep saying it on the pod, but we're going to have to go on a run at some point where we do pick up 4 or 5 wins in a row, and we just can't seem to pick it up. I'd love to say we get in, and obviously I'm hopeful we get in, but I don't think we will. And that's obviously not a bad season for us, having just been promoted. It's just frustrating because it feels like there's an opportunity there that had we just picked up 3 or 4 more of those wins instead of draws, we've dropped 9 points to We haven't beaten Shrewsbury this season over 2 games. We didn't beat Harrogate in the home game. We didn't beat Barrow away when we drew 2-2 when they had 10 men, and we didn't beat Newport away either. So we've dropped 9 or so points, 11 or so points against the bottom 4 or 5 teams, which has been frustrating as well. But if we can beat the teams around us, then obviously that brings them back into it, because if they're dropping points and we're picking points up, we've got the capability of doing it. Do I think we will do it? I think we will fall short, but it wouldn't surprise me if we go and win against these sides.
Absolutely. Sam, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up with you later in the season.
Thanks. Have a good one, guys.
Cheers, Sam.
Cheers. Likewise, thanks to all our guests this evening. Thanks to my co-host, Danny Shepherd from One Up Frent's Awful City blog and Old Dead Tree even fanzine. Thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to us on YouTube and on Spotify and join if you can. And we'll see you again for another League 2 podcast next week.